Welcome to a new video, and today we're gonna do wildlife photo editing again. And this is the photo we will be using, and it's gonna turn into this one. I'm gonna show you all the steps that I do to create this effect, and you can follow along. And as always, the photo is in the description of the video. So if you want to follow along, download the photo from the description of the video and just follow along with the same steps I do, and you will get the same effect on the photo. And by the way, I have Photoshop courses to learn more about wildlife photo editing. So if you enjoy doing wildlife photo edits, check out my courses. The link is in the description of the video. Let's get into it. All right, into Photoshop. This is the photo we'll be using. And to be honest, at this point, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this photo. And that is what I usually do. I just import the photo in Photoshop and then I try out different stuff to see what works and what doesn't. And if something doesn't work, I just remove it again and try something else until I get a final good result. Final good photo edit, final good artwork, whatever we create. So right now I have no idea, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try out a bunch of different effects and see if it works on this photo, and if it doesn't, we just try something else, right? So that's how I always work, and that's how I like to work. So I'm not restricted to some basic steps that I always do. I do have some stuff that I try to use always, like the burn tool and the dodge tool for lighting. And I always like to use photos with a darker background. So for instance, you have sometimes photos with a lighter background. Let's say this photo. I don't really like editing these kind of photos because you are a little bit limited to the background lighting, and I want to keep my background a bit darker to have more focus on my subject. If I would cut this out and make it dark, it's not gonna look as real as making the left photo, this one, dark, right? So I like to use photos with a bit darker background and not the sky in the background. So that's just a personal preference of me. So let's actually start with editing this photo. Now let's first, as always, I like to add some curves first just to drop the lighting and have control of my own lighting. And now I can just take a normal brush here and brush some stuff away first. So I will define first where my lighting is gonna be. And let's actually disable this. You can see in this photo we have a bit darker areas on this side of the line. That means that the lighting in the original photo is also coming from that side. You can also see some shadows there. So naturally the lighting would come from the right side. So let's keep it that way. And that's something to keep in mind, that when you change the lighting or you edit the lighting, try to keep it like from the same angle that it's coming on the original photo, and that way your final result will look a lot more real. So I'm just gonna brush a little bit like that, and you can see the background is pretty dark. Let's make it dark. I wanna have all the focus on the line. I don't want to see the background anymore. And we have to brush a little bit better here. So just making the brush smaller, and this will be like the basic lighting. And after that I can just make it better, but for now I'm just having the basic lighting. Let's see, maybe we can make this slightly lighter so you can see its body there, like that. Let's also do a bit of these stones here. I think this will look nice. Also this one here, maybe just like that. And this area I'm gonna keep slightly darker, like there is some shadow there, maybe a bit lighter here, and that's okay. Now we have some edges here that I want to brush a little bit better. So I'm just going to do this slightly more carefully here so I can zoom in. So if you hold down your scroll mouse, if you hold down Option, or on Windows, I think it's Alt, and you scroll your middle mouse, you can zoom in and out, and that way you can really control it pretty fast. Let's do it something like that. All right, I think this is fine for now. Now, the next step that I would like to do is I would like to create a new layer, and I'm gonna fill this with 50% gray, and I'm gonna do some dodging here. I want to make some areas a little bit lighter. Let's see the dodge tool. Let's say, for instance, the eyes I like to make lighter, especially these reflections there. I like it when it's really reflecting the light like that. You can really see eyes good now. Also this area here. And sometimes you do it a little bit too much. You can always just take the opacity and drop this slightly lower to make it look more real. So don't do it too much unless it's gonna look unreal. Let's make a new layer. I like to have these eyes separately on a separate layer. And now I'm gonna brush again, and this time I'm just gonna brush these parts, like the edges, like there's some light reflections there, just like that. And it doesn't have to be much, just a little touch of this will make a great final result. I like to brush these lighter parts like that. That way you get really a lot of details in your photo without actually doing anything difficult here. Let's also do it here. Let's do it a little bit more carefully. I like to work fast, and sometimes when you work fast, you just ruin the image. Let's not ruin it, because here it's a bit too much, so I'm just gonna brush like that. Don't worry, it looks like these white tones are really blown out, but I'm gonna drop the opacity, so it's gonna be a little bit less. So I just want to make sure I have some sort of a rim lights. Actually, I think they are called rim lights when you have this lighting reflected on the edges. Let's also do here, because we're also gonna get some light reflections there when we get lighting from the top, from the right top side actually. Probably also a little bit there, and that way we can really see this fur details, and I really like that. Let's do a little bit more on this side like that, so we have difference between the right side and the left side. This side I want to make just a little touch darker, but these we can make lighter because they are like white, and there's also light coming there. Maybe also just a little bit there, maybe not so much. Here we can drop the opacity, or actually it's exposure, but you get the point. And I also like to make this stone here slightly lighter, and that way it's gonna look a bit more real. At least for me, I feel like this looks more real when we also get some lighter spots there, maybe also here. Now the lighting, let's see, the lighting is coming from somewhere there. Could also be a bit lower here. As you can see, we have some light areas here, here. So let's actually make a light spot, like a spotlight. And I'm using this for now just as a guideline where my light will be. So let's say this will be the lighting, right? So you can even stretch it out. This will be my lighting. And if you're gonna put it here, you can instantly see it. Something is weird with this image. So when I put this here, I have a really good kind of guideline where I need to brush. And I just like to use it like that. You can also even leave it like that. Looks like there's some light on him shining there. But I'm using this now as a guideline where I need to brush. And let's see, this one, it's a bit too much. So let's drop this and just use it a little bit. Something like that. Now, the next step is to do some brushing again. And this time I'm just gonna brush darker tones. And for the darker tones, I'm gonna use the burn tool. And probably the Dutch and burn tool are, I think, the most important tools from the whole Photoshop tool belt here for editing wildlife photos. At least for me, for the style I like to do, these kind of mysterious dark images. You just need the brush slot, and the curves are also one of my favorite actually adjustment tool to edit wildlife photos. So let's brush these areas here. So basically just everything that's blocking the light I'm gonna brush. This here, let's make the brush bigger here, and you can see I'm brushing the highlights here, and to make it look more natural you can then switch to a lower range. I will do that in a second. I'm also gonna brush here. I think we can make his face pretty dark on this left side. I think that looks nice, maybe like that. I think something like this will be pretty cool. Now I'm gonna brush the background also. I feel like it's a little bit distracting, this color here, or maybe we can even remove the color from the background. That would also look good, I think. But first, let's brush it a bit. I'm also going to use the burn tool for the background. It works really well to brush some lighter spots away. Like you can see here, we have some orange spot here. I don't want to get the attention to that spot from the viewer. I want to have the viewer look at this area here and not so much in the background. So I'm just gonna brush these slightly away, also there. Then we have some nice contrast between the background and the line, because the line is pretty light now and the background is gonna get dark. Also here, maybe a little bit less visible of these, some sort of a vignette that we are creating here. Maybe also a little bit less of that side of the lion, and especially like close to the edge, so you can really separate this line from the background, just like that. Let's see here, let's do it a bit more there. And you can see I can just go on with this all day to correct every little thing in this photo, or actually looks a bit too much like an artwork now, but we'll fix that later. Remember, with Photoshop you can just create something, and if it looks way too photoshopped, just put everything in a folder like that and drop the opacity to a range where you think it looks like a real photo. So sometimes I get messages from people that it looks too photoshopped. Then just control it yourself by putting it like that. And then let's say I want to use this image, but I don't want to have it look like Photoshop too much. I will just do it opacity 50 like that, and it looks way more real, right? So, but first I like to make it look way photoshopped, and that way I have a lot of control at the end on how I want to make it look at the end. All right, so let's make this one a bit darker. I think we want to have more focus on the line and not so much on these stones, like that. I'm gonna switch now to shadows, and that way I can make the background even darker. I think this image would also look nice if it's black and white. Not sure yet, but we could always try that later on. I think something like this maybe. Oh no, that was too much. And you can see I'm just brushing here, and if I don't like it, I press Ctrl Z to go back until I got something that I like. So don't worry about this looking too photoshopped. That will be fixed later. Now let's see. Let's create a lighting. Oh, let's first correct the colors a bit. I think he's too red. Or is it a she? I don't know. Let's move this one a bit there. Some blue tones, cyan. And maybe like that. Let's also add the hue and saturation, and with this one I can make it more black and white. All right, let's now create a new layer, and on this layer I'm gonna try to make some light effect. Let's see if this works. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you can see I'm just going through these. Sometimes this works, this looks horrible. Let's try it another one. Overlay sometimes works off light. It's not bad, but it's not really what I want, so I'm gonna change the color a bit here, maybe drop the saturation, maybe a bit more like red. I think this looks better in this image. Let's do it like that. Let's add some mist to this image. I think it will look nice when we have some misty environment like that. It's a bit empty, so I want to have more kind of artwork style, but still like a real photo. Maybe something like that. And then I'll create a new layer. I will add some more mist. By the way, these mist brushes you can get on my website. It's in the description of the video. So if you want to get these, I'm using these to create this kind of mist effect. And also the trick with the mist is just change the color a little bit, not much, like that, and then pick another one so you don't see a pattern in these mists, or else it's gonna look unreal. You can also place mist there. Let's also do one more there. Looks really misty, or does it look like smoke maybe? So you can go through these mist brushes until you find one or more that you like. Maybe something like that. Actually, we should do this on separate layers so we could move every mist cloud separately if we want to, but now I'm just doing this on one layer, or a couple of layers actually. So let's do one more. Or do we have too much mist now? I think it looks cool with the mist. We might need to correct it later on to drop it a little bit so it's not so misty. I think it's super misty now, but kind of like it. And you can see I'm just playing around. There is no rules here. You're basically just creating an artwork and you can do whatever you want. And that's what I like about creating these kind of artworks. You just play around in Photoshop and have some fun. Let's also make sure the top is a bit misty, because now the whole artwork is super misty, but the top not. So I like to keep it a bit the same. And let's change the color slightly dark maybe. We don't have that much lighting there, so I actually need to switch between these mists every time so you don't see the same kind of mist. Alright, I think this is enough for the mist. It's super misty now. Let's put them all in a folder. And you can see here the before, after. Looks really different now. Alright, I think we can work a bit more on the lighting here. So I didn't, oh, I have a curse. I thought I didn't have a curse. I'm gonna add another curse on top of all these layers. And I'm gonna give it a bit more contrast like that. Maybe slightly less. You can see here where this kind of, how is it called, the mountain or whatever is starting, and if you put the black tones there, it's gonna look a bit better like that. And you can take the highlights, move them to the left, but I feel like the white tones are gonna get blown out, so you can also take these and move it slightly like that. See, or just drop the opacity to have this effect a little bit. All right, I'm gonna create a new layer and I want to do something with the colors. I feel like the colors are a bit boring, so maybe you can even add some blue in this. Not sure. The only way to find out is to just do it and then see how it looks. Sometimes these kind of effects look cool, sometimes they totally ruin the image. Let's change the blue a bit like that maybe. And we can eventually even take another color if you want, but it's gonna look way Photoshop now. Probably already looks super Photoshopped, so I'm not even sure if I should do this. Let's duplicate this and to the top. I think we have a lot of blue now. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. It's hard to tell at this point. I'm gonna remove some of these. I think I like them when they are a little bit there. Not sure why, but it adds something to the image. All right, let's now duplicate this and now let's create a light effect. I feel like we can do a lot more with the lighting. And I'm just gonna make my favorite light effect. Just this kind of thing. Stretch it out. Just like that. Where is it? It's gone. There it is. And the color slightly gonna change. Something more like this maybe. Let's duplicate it. I'm gonna create some sort of, like there is lighting coming in between some trees or whatever it is, some cave, maybe in between some cracks of the cave. Just there, not on its face, or else it's gonna get too light. So I think this is fine. We can put this in a folder and drop the opacity just a little bit. All right, let's now add a gradient. I want to make the outer parts a bit darker. So I'm going to add a gradient here. And I'm going to do something like this, the color, and put it there. And now if I move this, I can make sure it's a bit like that. And now I can play with these blend modes. Maybe something like that. Or is it too dark? Maybe slightly less. But I think this way we have more focus on our line here instead of this, right? So let's now create a new layer, and I'm gonna press Command Alt Shift E, and I'm gonna convert this to a smart object. And then I'm gonna go to camera filter, and in camera I can do some corrections again. Here I can play with the lighting again. I think I can drop the contrast here and maybe increase the highlights. These are the darker tones, shadows. And this one, probably not gonna touch. This one I might increase. So the colors I'm not gonna touch here. I'm gonna increase the clarity. I feel like it doesn't look sharp enough when I have it like this. But when we increase this, you can see a bit more details. I think this kind of artwork or photo edit fits this better. Let's also give it a slightly dehaze. I think vignette looks really cool on this one. I'm gonna leave it. Then I'm gonna play with the highlights here. Maybe drop the lights a bit so it looks more real, because it's still a pretty dark photo. So if you're gonna get too much of these white tones, it looks unreal. Although a lot of people say this looks unreal anyway, but you get the point. Let's go to hue, and here we can play a bit with the colors. So here we can change the fur of our line. If you want to have it more like gold, you can move this one a bit around. If you want to have more like reddish orange, I think I like it when it's a little bit goldish like that. Let's go to saturation. Here we can even increase this if we want to. Although it looks pretty cool when you have a lot of colors in your image, but usually at this time of the day, or I mean at these kind of dark photos, you won't see that much lighting. So to make it look more real, you would actually have to drop the color a bit, maybe like that. But I think I like it when they have a bit more color here, so we can have even more focus on the line. Let's try out luminance here. You can slightly drop that. All right, I'm gonna move all the way down here. Can we apply lens blur? Let's try it out. This lens blur actually works pretty good on most photos. You can get really nice focus on your animal or whatever you have in the center with this one, and you can easily control it with the visualized depth. And I would even know the blur amount. I will even increase this. Let's see how it looks. What is it? You can also use these to kind of make stuff blurry around it like that, and then when you disable this, you can see how it looks. It looks pretty cool, although I have a feeling when I do this, it's gonna be more like really Photoshop thing. So I'm gonna disable it for now, but sometimes it works really well. I want to keep this a bit more like a real photo and not Photoshop. So it's always difficult to find the range, or how do you call it, where you see something is too much Photoshop or something looks too much like a photo and not enough Photoshop. So you really have to find the balance between those two to get the best result. At least that's what I think. I think this looks pretty cool. Maybe like that. And what I always like to, I have two screens. So I have here like this BenQ photographer screen, and then I have here my MacBook. So I would move my design from left to right to see how it looks on different screens, just to make sure it looks all right. And let's keep it like that. I think I like this one. All right, we did a lot of stuff actually. So let's put this. Oh, I forgot. I like to always do some color balance at the end. So we can add some slightly cyan tones and blue tones to this. Look at that. That looks a lot better. Maybe for the highlights, just a little touch of this yellow here, red. And for the shadows, add some blues to the shadows. It makes it looks more cinematic. Just a simple trick. Maybe this one was fine, but you can see here we're getting these nice blue tones, and that way we can also separate our line from the background, just like that. And I think we can put this in a folder. Oh, why is it moving like that? I'm gonna do a color balance. Oh no, not color balance. I'm gonna do a curves, and at the end you can hear, just give it that final touch. But I'm gonna do red here, and I'm gonna try to move these sliders. These also works pretty good to kind of finalize your colors. And actually the only thing I use here is the bottom, the darker here, the left side I mean. And I'm just slightly moving them to the right, and I think it makes it looks better. All right, let's put this all in a folder and see what we have. So we started with this, and now we have this, and that's how I create these kind of things. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you want to learn more about wildlife photo editing, make sure to check out my website where I have different courses to learn wildlife photo editing. And if you like this kind of stuff, you can learn a lot more in my courses. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and catch you on the next one.